Hello everybody, and welcome to a Dark Souls 3 walkthrough slash item guide slash, more or less just tips and tricks and whatnot. This is going to be broken into several parts based on the area of the game. I recommend, if you have not played Dark Souls 3, to play it beforehand. It is basically sacrilege to play through these games with a guide. Any of this Dark Souls games, etc. They are all experiences that should be experienced in their own time. I will not be going in depth with story. If you would like story, I recommend checking out Vati Vidya's channels. He does videos on all of the lore of all of the FromSoft games. Basically, Dark Souls, Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, Bloodborne, Sekiro, and he's already knee-deep in Elden Ring, without even the game being out. But, more or less, to kick this guide off, we are going to go through each area, step by step for each video, collect each item, show you tips and tricks, show you where enemies are, and once again, I preface this by saying, play through the game first, then come back for the guide if you're looking to find missing items, missing NPCs, quests, stuff like that. But I do highly recommend playing through the game on its own before watching this, or even any guide for that matter. But we will start it out with making a new character. Once again, I will be skipping over story elements, trying to avoid as many spoilers as possible. So, we are going to start this out. You can start with any class you want, but for the purpose of this guide, we're going to be starting out as a pyromancer. Recommend taking the young white branch as your gift. It will come in handy later. Don't use it if you are going with this. It is very recommended that you keep it, but don't actually use the item itself. It is going to make later sections of the game much easier. Starting out in the Cemetery of Ash. Now, this game will take, along with all Souls and Souls-like games, are going to take a lot of practice to master. I can't even say that I've mastered them. But I will say that with several thousands of hours into this game, along with tens of thousands of hours well, not tens of thousands, but probably close to 10,000 hours in the Souls series in general, and Souls-like games, I feel like I have a general idea of what to expect. Now, we've picked up one particular soul packet, which will be used probably at the Firelink at some point in time. We've picked up the Ashen Estus Flask, which will be useful for any sort of magic that you use, or weapon arts for that matter. The only other thing worthy of note in this first chunk of area is this path off to the right here. In this path to the right, there is a giant crystal lizard. A very large version of the smaller ones that we will be killing later for Titanite and whatnot for weapon upgrades. This guy can give you a bit of trouble if you're not used to his moveset, but the best thing I can suggest is more or less just kind of figure out his patterns, dodge. If you don't think you can take him this early on in the game, then by all means come back later. Another thing to note is that if you find out how many hits it takes for you to stagger him, you can find out and then go up and riposte him for a lot of extra damage. However, don't get greedy, it will end up biting you in the ass. That being said, he does have a variety of moves, and is actually very challenging for a starting player to take down. I have personally died to this guy probably dozens of times. If you do manage to kill him, he drops a fair chunk of souls and a Titanite scale. There is another soul packet. We will continue on our way. Now, personally speaking, the fact that we have a pyromancy flame allows us to cast pyromancies. If you didn't choose the pyromancer, that's fine. This is just the class that I personally found the easiest to start with. Up the hill now, proceeding to the next chunk of area, we will have more of the cemetery and our first actual bonfire. Don't have to rest at it. It is recommended, however, in case the first boss gives you trouble, and also gain the first of your emotes, and also all your Estus flasks back. Moving forward, we'll have another enemy. And he's just giving me a hell of a time for some reason. 2 more down here. Won't actually come after you unless you go near them. Now if we come over here, jump over, get one of your first of many Titanite shards, which we will be using later on to upgrade a weapon. Plunging attack, fading soul, another nice 50 souls, not that much, but it'll be useful. Cleric's Chime actually will be used early on. That's not a guaranteed drop, but it's nice to have. We will use it in a later part of this section of the guide. Coming up here, we'll have another guy on the right. Take him down. And then one more guy down here, which we will take him out as well. Now that all the enemies and all the items have been grabbed, and all the enemies have been dispatched, we can move on to the first boss arena against Edict's Gundyr. This is like the standard tutorial boss for any of the Souls games. He will remove the sword from his chest, and he will come out swinging very quickly. Get as many hits in as you can before he starts actually attacking. Now, what this boss is known for is very similar to Gwyn from the first game. He's very easy to parry, and can be done so well if you feel comfortable. It is recommended learning to parry because it'll make a lot of things easier. If you don't have the timings down, don't worry about it. It's not necessary to parry Gundyr in order to kill him, but it does make the actual fight a lot easier. Now once we get him down to about half HP, he's going to start transforming into this giant mix of Gundyr and what's known as a Pus of Man. You're going to want to kind of stay close if you can, because it's a lot easier to punish him on his moves. And then we're going to swap to the Pyromancy Flame because the Pus of Men are weak to fire, and he will take more damage from the Pyromancy Flame. Once again, don't get greedy. It will get you killed more cases than not. And with that, Edict's Gundyr is down. We finally get our Ember. Get our bonfire, second bonfire, and access to Firelink Shrine proper. Upon opening the door here, we will have a few more items to collect, and also a potentially challenging foe to defeat, or he might defeat me. I don't know, it's a mixed bag. I typically don't like to cheese him, but you can just knock him off the cliff. Not these guys, obviously. Around the corner here, we have our first homeward bone, which we will also be making use of here. And then there's 2 hollows sitting up the hill here on the left. We want to ignore them for now. Instead, get this guy on this side. You can either backstab him and have him fall off, or you can just kick him off, or you can just kill him normally. Doesn't really matter. Run up the stairs. Now if we go down this way, we can take care of these 2 hollows before even triggering these 2, because if we had gone down here and attacked these guys first, we would actually have to deal with both these guys, the archer and the shield and spear hollow up here. We want to go to the left. There's an item in that tree to our left here. We don't want to grab it quite yet, because if we do, it'll trigger these hollows. Kill those two. Grab the east-west shield. Now up here is the Master Swordsman. Don't want to fight him quite yet. He does drop an Uji Katana, which is a fairly high level dex weapon, has bleed on it. It's a pretty solid weapon to use if you plan on doing a dex build and didn't start with a dex weapon. However, he's also very challenging and can kill you. If you had trouble with the lizard, you're going to have even more trouble with him. His moves are a little bit easier to read, as he only has a couple of them, but his attacks also hit significantly harder. We probably going to cheese him with fire. Come down here, can place the coiled sword in the actual bonfire to have the central bonfire good to go. Before we spend our souls on some levels, we're going to do a couple of things. I'm going to talk to the handmaiden here. You're going to purchase a large leather shield. You're going to purchase 99 arrows. We are going to purchase a prism stone. And if you feel the need to play online with other people or send or give help to other people, you're going to want a white sign soapstone, which we will buy for the sake of the guide as well, just so that way we're not having more souls than most people. You can come down here, talk to Andre. He's the guy that will reinforce your weapons, improve them with the Titanite, and whatnot. He'll also allow you to allot your Estus and reinforce Estus. However, if we actually talk to him twice, he will give us our second emote, Hurrah. We will be doing more with Andre later when we have the materials. Now we have some of the materials that we want. We don't have all of them. We can come up here and talk to Hawkwood, and he'll give us the collapse emote. And then we can also come up here to Ludleth. He's a very useful NPC. He will come in handy later. But for the sake of item collection, we are going to just kill him. He will drop a ring called the Skull Ring, and that will actually be used to draw the attention of enemies away from your allies, or to just greatly increase the amount of range that the enemies detect you and will come after you. The seed of a giant tree from up here will not be there yet. It will become more available as you get invaded more. This entire guide will be offline, so the only invasions we should be getting is NPC invasions. The next step here might take a few tries. You want to run up the tree and then jump off the tree towards the roof, and you can get on the roof to collect a couple more items. There's the homeward bone. 3 more to be useful. We're going to skip the door to the rafters for now. We're going to come over here. We're going to ignore the swordsman. I come down here. Behind the Firelink Shrine, there is our first tiny crystal lizard. A jumping attack will always stagger them. You can always follow it up with a heavy swing. If you have the appropriate leveled weapon for the area, you should be able to effectively two-shot them. Getting onto the roof, we will not be getting up there quite yet. We will be ignoring that for now. We will be instead coming to the rafters. Don't fall off. That nearly gave me a heart attack there. And here is Picklepea Pumperum, the crow or 2 crows that we will be trading a large portion of items with. Here we are going to want to drop a firebomb, going to want to drop a prism stone, going to want to drop a homeward bone, and then we are also going to want to drop a chime if you got one. If you don't have one, don't worry about it, you can get one later, and the large leather shield. Everything else we should have, and then we can collect our emote, call over. a couple of Titanite to help me carving from the actual chime. If you don't have that, don't worry about it. It's just a fun little stone and a bunch of upgrade materials. Now if we come down here, these are illusory walls. Ah, shit. Well, don't fall off the rafters like I did. Completionist nature in me definitely wanted me to make sure all three of them. Probably should have set up the bonfire at the actual Firelink Shrine, but it doesn't really matter. But the reason why we bought the shield and the prism stone and all of that is to collect the extra twinkling titanite. And the firebomb was for the large titanite, which we will use to get a +4 weapon pretty early, probably by second actual area out of the tutorial area. And then we will use that plus another one that we can get early on to get a pretty solid opening for a weapon. Get my souls back. Moving forward, if we drop down here, there'll be a chest on the right, which will contain covetous silver serpent ring, which will increase the amount of souls you get per kill from killing things by 10%. So it's good to have on hand, especially this early on in the game. Especially if we're going to go and kill the Master Swordsman. Because if we plan on killing the Master Swordsman, which hopefully we can do in the first shot here, then he will give us a good chunk of souls as well. But he's also kind of does a lot of damage. So we're going to try and do most of his health with fireballs, keeping our distance. Good counter damage on that one. Fireball really does make a lot of things in the beginning of the game significantly easier. Another choice you can do is you can try and parry him, but his parrying times vary depending on if he's one-handing or two-handing. Which can actually greatly increase or decrease your ability to parry him. Or you can cheese him and just shove him off the edge of the cliff. I like to just keep my distance, grab his Uji Katana and his other things that he's got. Fairly stylish clothing, if you ask. Going to finally move forward and finish up the first section of this game. We are going to give that Estus shard we found in the rafters to Andre and increase our Estus to 3 and 2 because we are going to want the extra Ashen Estus to deal with enemies on the High Wall of Lothric, which will be the next area. Finally, we will spend the rest of our souls. We are going to get 14 dexterity. And then from there, you can kind of do whatever. For the purpose of this build, I think I'm going to put the rest of it into Vigor. But we need at least 14 dexterity. Eventually, I would want to get both of these up to about 18 for various weapons and whatnot that I want to use. But after we get that done, we can then finally travel to the High Wall of Lothric, and thus completes Part 1 of the guide, which is the Ashen Cemetery and Firelink Shrine. I will see you all in Part 2, the High Wall of Lothric.